You're listening to the Sports Circus, and I'm Mike Golick.
You can put it on the board. Yes.
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP.TV. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged Wagyu Prime, USDA Prime Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, and of course, the king of all, those giant cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Best I ever had, probably be the best you ever had as well. Also, make sure to check out those half-pound Wagyu USDA Prime burgers as well. Mercy, those are good. Again, UppercutChops.com. UppercutChops.com for more information, or give them a call. Find out what's for dinner at 702-799-9935, 702-799-9935, 702-799-9935 for UppercutChops.com. All right, welcome in everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates, as well as our independents from coast to coast, from Honolulu all the way down to South Florida, a whole bunch of points in between. Everybody also on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Time Warner, and WOW Cable Television. Thanks for joining us, as well as everybody on Hotel TV in over 500,000 rooms from coast to coast, plus everybody also on Facebook, Instagram, X, but you can call it Twitter, and YouTube as well. All right, so it's been a busy last few days in college basketball and pro basketball as well. We'll get to that in a minute. College hoops, a little bit of upset, but not too much, but a little bit of upset that kind of upset my stomach, which was the number 2 ranked Purdue Boilermakers traveled over to Columbus, Ohio to play lowly unranked Ohio State and somehow lost by 4 points. And you know, you're supposed to play the schedule. No, you're supposed to play the game, not the schedule, right? People say, oh, just play who's on your schedule. Yeah, but at the end of the day, you got to play who you're playing and focus on that instead of, well, these guys are 14-11. Let's just go ahead and steamroll because we are 23-2. No, not so fast. And this was a good gut check for Purdue before going into the postseason, who will say the conference tournament, the Big Ten Conference tournament, and of course then the NCAA tournament. Meanwhile, back to the ranch, UConn with a real big win at Marquette, and this is a stunning win. And when you look at what Marquette has done, and they've really climbed the rankings, you know, they were up to number 4 when they lost to UConn, and they lost by 28 at home. That's right. UConn 81, Marquette 53. Next up for UConn, the number 1 ranked Huskies, is Creighton. They travel to go play the Blue Jays. And number 2 is now Houston. And Houston got a real nice win at Texas. In fact, the Sports Circus and Sal the Bookmaker had predicted that Houston would go right into Texas and steamroll them, which is exactly what they did. They beat Texas on their home court by 21. Next up is a very tough task, and that is against the Cyclones of Iowa State. Purdue up next for them at number 3. They dropped 1 slot. They still got 1,414 votes. They're playing Rutgers next. They're home against Rutgers, so that's going to be a tough one. I mean, there's no day off in the Big Ten, folks. There just isn't. Now, everybody listening in the Southeast Conference or the ACC right now, or you're listening out in the what's left of the Pac-12 or even the Big 12, look, there is no easy game in the Big Ten. And, of course, you'll be adding 4 schools next year with UCLA, USC, Washington, and Oregon. There will be no easy day off in the Big Ten. It's only going to get harder. Now, Arizona ranked number 4. They actually went up from 5 to 4, and they almost doubled up Arizona State. They beat them 105 to 60 in Tempe. I mean, that's crazy, folks. Seriously. How do you lose by 55 on your home court? I'll never know. Up next for Arizona is Washington State. Number 5 ranked Tennessee. They went up 3 slots from number 8 with a big win over at Nashville over Vanderbilt. And again, Vanderbilt gives up. They got crushed by 35 on their home court. And yeah, that's a Tennessee State rivalry. I get it. But how do you lose by 35 on your home court? That's ridiculous. Up next for Tennessee is at the Tigers of Missouri. Number 6, Iowa State, as we mentioned, jumped up from 10 to 6. And they got themselves a real nice road win at Texas Tech, thinking that Iowa State could go into Houston and beat Houston. And guess what? That would put those Boilermakers right back at number 2. And Marquette. Yeah, as I clear my throat, because Marquette was just the biggest mind-boggler of all, getting destroyed on their home court by 28. Mind you, these guys were ranked number 4, so it was number 1 against number 4, but they were murdered. But Marquette is going to get very, very well against DePaul. But DePaul, ever since joining the Big East, they just haven't done anything. Ever since Ray Meyer, not Joey Meyer, his kid, since Ray Meyer back in the days with Mark Aguirre and the boys, DePaul just hasn't had anything. They really haven't. In fact, the best team in Chicago is Loyola of Chicago. Of course, a nice round of applause for the Ramblers. Of course, they made the Final Four a handful of years ago as well. Now, number 8 ranked Duke got themselves a win on the road down in Tallahassee. They went up from 9 to 8, and they have Miami on Wednesday. Kansas drops 3 slots to number 9. And they've got Texas coming up. They're going to probably get well there. North Carolina drops 3 slots to number 10. And they've got Virginia coming up on Saturday. Baylor goes up 1 to 11 with a very nice win at West Virginia. Up next is Brigham Young. Illinois, in that very heartfelt game with the, that wasn't a good game to go to for everybody over in Maryland, mourning the death. And Illinois goes in, gets a 5-point win. They go up 2 slots to number 12. Up next is Penn State. Alabama goes up 2 slots to number 13 with a 25-point win at Texas A&M. Up next is Florida. Auburn drops 1 slot to number 14 with a tough loss at Kentucky. Up next is Georgia. Creighton up 2 slots to number 15 at 19-7. Up next for them is Big Bad UConn. We'll see what happened here. Dayton stays the same, unchanged at number 16 with their next game against George Mason. Kentucky up 5 slots to number 17. It's hard to imagine any Kentucky team down that far down the trough. So they were at 22. They're up to number 17. And, of course, they got that win against Auburn over in Auburn. That's a tough one. Up next for them is at LSU. St. Mary's, the Gales, stay unchanged at number 18. Up next for them is San Francisco, the Dons. San Diego State stays unchanged. Up next for them is University of Southern Utah. South Carolina drops 9 slots to number 20 with that loss at LSU. Up next is at Ole Miss. Washington State, Colorado State, Texas Tech, and Florida all stay unchanged. And the only change we have in the top 25 below that is Brigham Young dropping 6 slots to number 25 with a 10-point loss at Oak State. Up next for them is Baylor. Speaking of basketball, the All-Star Game, the NBA All-Star Game happened. And look, folks, I don't know about you, but I watch these games every now and then. I happen to flick this one on. I wasn't really going out of my way to watch it. And what really struck me interesting, what wasn't even funny, is how in the world, how did they score so many points? How does that happen? How does the NBA have a ridiculous amount of points scored in an All-Star game? Oh, that's right, because no defense is played, and it's the Look at Me game. That's really what they should change the name to. It is now the Look at Me game. And when I look at what's going on with the NBA in general, I mean, they're really, some people say they're gaining popularity. I believe they're dropping in popularity. There's a lot of reasons for it. But at the end of the day, they scored 397 points in that game. 397 points. Of course, that deserves an astounding, in my opinion, round of boos. That's just one too many points. And they say, oh, well, there's a bunch of great players on the court and this and that. Okay, fine. I mean, at the end of the first, it was 53-47. It's crazy to imagine how these teams actually did what they did. And you go down the starters. Okay, well, you look at all the time played, whatever, and you have guys like Kevin Durant had 18 points. I get it. James only had 8 points, which is good. Jokic had 13. Alexander had 31. Doncic had 7. And these are the starters. On the other side, Antetokounmpo had 23. Tatum had 20. Adebayo had 3. Damian Lillard had 39. And Halliburton had 32. Now, here's where it gets interesting. You look at the bench players over in the Western Conference. Karl Anthony Towns had 50 off the bench. Steph Curry had 16. Anthony Davis 6. Devin Booker 15. Anthony Edwards 4. Kawhi Leonard 5. Paul George had 13. So obviously everybody got in on the action. And over in the East, basically everybody scored. Jaylen Brown had 36 off the bench. Banchero had 6. Barnes had 16. Brunson had 12. Maxey had 10. Mitchell at 9. Trae Young had 5. But Joel Embiid did not play, nor did Julius Randle. But what I'm trying to say here, folks, is when you look at the fact that, yes, this is a all-star game. Now, I'm looking at this spray chart, and the spray chart shows a very different game. In fact, when we get back from break, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this. I want to talk about the shot selection and everything else that doesn't happen. But the actual chart itself is very intriguing. All right, back here in a few minutes on the Circus. Lots more to come. Going to come back with basketball in just a few minutes.
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America, with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at 702-799-9935. Again, 702-799-9935. Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Could you use a little extra money right now? If you'd like to borrow up to $100,000 and get pre-approved in minutes, call the number we'll give you at the end of this commercial. Our lending partners have already loaned millions of dollars to individuals just like you, and we're ready to lend you up to $100,000 if you qualify. Even if your credit is not perfect, you could use the money to pay off high-interest credit cards, for home renovations, or consolidate existing debt. You can get flexible, easy-to-pay terms. The consultation to find out if you qualify is free. To find out if you qualify for our special financing program, call this toll-free number 24 hours a day. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. 800-335-1376. That's 800-335-1376. Important terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Loan amount, annual percentage rate, and term will vary depending on creditworthiness. Applying does not guarantee approval. Account approval is subject to verification and confirmation of your credit history and acceptance by a lender. If you choose to apply for a loan through us, a consumer report will be obtained to evaluate your creditworthiness in connection with your application for credit.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UppercutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UppercutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UppercutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UppercutChops.com or call 702-799-9935. That's 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Or make your selection directly at UppercutChops.com.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP.TV. Folks, that's all ages media programming television. If you're looking to produce or have your own podcast produced, your own radio show, your own television show produced, broadcast, and distributed, contact AMP TV at info@aamp.tv. That's info@aamp.tv. For more information, they can help with all of your production, broadcasting, editing, voiceover, and distribution needs. Make sure that you get in touch with them at info@aamp.tv. Yes! All right, welcome back to everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates, and our independents from coast to coast, including our friends over in Honolulu on CBS Sports 1500 KHKA. That's home of the New York Yankees and the Alabama Crimson Tide, and of course the San Francisco 49ers as well. Welcoming everybody in the greater Los Angeles markets, San Diego, San Francisco, and Seattle markets as well, right here in Las Vegas, as well as our friends in Denver and Chicago, Minneapolis, New York, Boston, Cleveland, Detroit, Nashville, Atlanta, WDJY 99.1 FM, Auburn, Alabama, WAUD 1230 on the AM dial, all the way down to South Florida and Miami and the greater Tampa market as well. All right, everybody else on TV, you know who you are, and everybody on social media, make sure you like, subscribe, and follow. So in the last segment, it was about the NBA and the All-Star Game and the ridiculous 397 points that they scored. That's crazy, folks. I mean, really. 211 to 186. So let's look at the shot selections. I left off talking about that spray chart, so to say. So if you look at an image or an overlay of the court, and you see where the shots are made, there are a blur, and when I say a blur of shots beyond the three-point arc, most of the shots were taken beyond the three-point arc. Only one was taken from the top of the key in the entire game. Only one. None were shot from the free throw line. And I'm talking about regular field goals. I'm not talking about free throws. Not one, which I find alarming. Now, of course, in the paint, all the way down in that little area, that little half circle, almost all of the shots in the paint were taken from just a couple of feet from the hoop in the first place. And I think a lot of those were dunks. I don't think that there was a lot of layups. I don't think there was a few here and there. But basically all that represents is the dunks. So mostly, when you look at these, you don't really see any 20-footers, any baseline shots, maybe a couple over from the West team. That's about it. I wouldn't say a couple, but you actually see probably about 5 or 6, maybe 7 attempted. And then you see about half of those were made, thereabouts. One from the elbow in both teams. Believe it or not. But everything, for the most part, was 3-point. If it wasn't a dunk, it was a 3-point shot. That's it. Look, you could dice that up however you want to. But you look at the scoring, and let's go to that score of 211 to 186. And we look back, and we say all the way back from the beginning of these All-Star games, kind of when they first happened. And let's go the NBA 1951 All-Star Game. It was a normal score of 111 to 94. 1952, 108 to 91. 1953, I think, is the lowest scoring All-Star Game, and that was 79 for the West and 75 for the East. That was played in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Imagine that one. So the score started picking up basically around 1958. And you're starting to see it was 130 to 118, and the scores were averaging in the high, we'll just say about 115-ish to 120s, et cetera, et cetera. Then there was a big jump in 1961. In fact, that score was 153 to 131. And that was played up in Syracuse. Oscar Robertson was the MVP of that game. But that's where the first time 150 was actually reached. The next year, of course, it was the same thing, 150 to 130. And then they kind of calmed down with the scoring a little bit, and it got down to some kind of normalcy around 64 at 111, 107. Of course, Oscar Robertson, again, was the MVP there. But now in 1966, the West only scored 94 points. So we're looking for those single digits. 1973 was arguably the lowest scoring game in modern history. And Dave Cowens, the hometown boy from Chicago at that time, playing with the Chicago Bulls, the East won 104 to 84. It's a very low scoring 188 point total game. And outside of that, in 1975, 108-102 with Walt Frazier being the MVP in that game, that was a low-scoring game, a regular score. But then from that point on, from 1976 forward, it was nothing but points and points and points, and it just got crazier and bigger and stupider. Yeah, it did. The scores 150, 140, and both sides 130s, 140s, and now you're up into the 1990s when you've got 150s again. Regular score 155 to 145. The number's just getting bigger and crazier. And I guess my point in all this is even 2017, 192 to 182, 2016, 196 to 173. You think of these scores. You say, first of all, it doesn't even happen in a regular game. Second of all, they play no defense. None. Zero. And what are they doing? Just like in the shot selection that I talked about. They're shooting threes or dunks. That's it. There's no more mid-range jumpers, no more teardrops, none of that stuff. No. And it's kind of like we see in the All-Star game or the Pro Bowl in the NFL. So that is more of it's a flag football game now. I mean, honestly, folks, a flag football game. That's right. Yeah. You clear your throat thinking about that one, saying, why would I even watch it? Me personally, I did not watch the Pro Bowl. I spent 5 minutes watching the NBA All-Star game. And somebody I know from the NBA said today that he watched 5 minutes of the game and he was thoroughly embarrassed for the style of play and the showmanship and the aloof attitude that the players seemed to have. Now, somebody told me from another sport today, a two-time Super Bowl champion, told me, they said, you know what, as long as the fans keep coming, that's really what they want. And you know what, I'll agree with that to a degree. That's fine. But what they've done is they basically said, look, be the powers that be in the NBA. They'd say, you know what, go ahead and keep scoring and scoring and scoring. We're not going to play any defense. We don't want anybody to get hurt. And we're going to get money from our TV sponsors. So whether the people at home are really watching or not is not really the issues, because the TV contracts are the big money in the first place. And those TV contracts, when you look at them, you say, well, look, at some point, if people stop buying the products, then when the sales go off, when the sales are down, is what I'm saying, when they turn to the other direction, the TV contracts will get smaller. So if the fans decided, you know what, we don't like this style of play, we don't like what's going on in this sport or that sport, game fixing here, game fixing there, whatever the hell it is. Well, folks, the only way to make things more affordable, and I'm saying for the end user, look, to go to a basketball game for a family of four, an NBA game, it's got to be around $2,000 in tickets, parking, concession, blah, 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 all that stuff. Baseball, it's about $1,000 for 4 good seats, parking, blah, 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 right? Football, we have the same dynamic, $1,000 for a family of 4. And I think this is a fair number. Hockey, it's a lot less. But ultimately, folks, what are we talking about? How do you get the ticket prices down? You got to get, somehow the salaries are just way, way out of control. I'm sorry, but these players do not deserve the monies that they're being thrown at them. It is what it is, right? You could say, well, Ohtani signed a $700 million deal, which I think is complete lunacy. I think the Dodgers are really going to eat it on this one. I mean, the guy can't even throw the baseball this year. But ultimately, when you try to figure out how do we pay less, well, this is how it affects each and every one of us. The average American makes what, about $38,000 to $40,000 a year. And that's most of the people that listen to this program and most of the people that listen to sports talk radio or watch sports talk television like what we're doing here. And even the social media listeners, maybe you're about $60,000 to $100,000. But it gets too expensive to go to these games. How do you reduce it? Well, A, you don't buy the products of those organizations that are like today's show is brought to you by this particular beverage company or this food company or whatever. I won't name them because we don't want to get them mad at us. But you just stop going there. And eventually they see the sales fall off. Sales fall off. That means the revenue to the bottom line falls off. That means the shareholder value drops, which means, stock price is tumbling, which means we have to spend less money on certain things, which means what? The contracts get lesser, and then therefore the players don't get those big sponsorship deals and all this other crap. They make less money, but it becomes more affordable for people like you and me. That's how you do it. You can make a difference. I know this is not a political ad, but you can change the way things are going in the sporting world for sporting events. And if you don't like paying for subscription television, stop watching it. Because eventually, if enough people stop watching it, they're going to really feel it in the pocket. What are they going to do? Well, you can come back here for half the price. Okay, fine. Maybe I do want to come back for half the price because I think your price of $200 for a season or $500 for a season is too much money. Folks, this is exactly how you do it. And if you think that's a bunch of BS, it's not. Do a little research, do some homework, and find out how the market moves. And you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Everybody over in Auburn, Alabama, listen, you got Auburn University right there. Do a case study. Ask your professors. You'll find out. Everybody else around the country, do the same thing to your schools. Ask your professors. Ask the local papers. Tell them to do a little bit of research for you. You'll see you can do it yourself online as well. Back here in a few minutes, we're going to talk baseball and football when we return. Don't go anywhere. I'm your Ringmaster Sal of the Sports Circus, a primetime nationally syndicated television, radio, sports, and entertainment show. The Sports Circus covers topics others are too scared to talk about. There's no other primetime show like it on here that'll punch you in the face and you'll beg for more. Join me, Hall of Famers, world champions, and all-star celebrity guests for chaos and controversy here on Libsyn and all podcast platforms, plus thesportscircus.com. Remember, folks, it's a circus and we prove it every day.
Hello Americans, it's Uncle Sam here. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes to the IRS or state, don't worry. I've got important news that may help you negotiate a lower tax bill. In today's economy, the IRS has released a variety of new rules and is offering more flexible terms to help Americans looking to settle their IRS debt. If you apply today, we may be able to lift your wage garnishments and release a freeze on your bank assets or business. Our team of tax professionals can resolve your case and stop collection actions against you. Even if you've been audited or haven't filed a return in years, they can help. Call right now and find out if you qualify to settle your IRS debt for far less than what you owe. Pick up your phone right now and call us for a free $500 IRS tax review. Don't wait. Here's the number.
Call right now. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. For the last time, that's 800-950-2049.
The old way of living with diabetes is a pain. You've got to remember to do your testing and always need to stick your fingers to test your blood sugar. The new way to live your life with diabetes is with a continuous glucose monitor. Apply a discrete sensor on your body, and it continuously monitors your glucose levels, helping you spend more time in range and freeing you from painful finger sticks. If you are living with type 1 or type 2 diabetes and you use insulin or have had hypoglycemic events, you might be eligible for a CGM through your insurance benefits. U.S. Med partners with over 500 private insurance companies and Medicare. We offer free shipping, 90-day supplies, and we bill your insurance. Call us today for a free benefits check.
800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. That's 800-659-7805.
That's ridiculous.
back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP.TV. Folks, make sure you check out the sportscircus.com for our upcoming guests, our prior guests, our recorded shows, which are our podcast. We don't do podcasts. We do a regular TV and radio show, but we take our full recorded file, and unedited, by the way, and place it on our social media and our podcast platform outlets, which, of course, are Spotify and iHeartRadio and Apple and Google and Amazon and Audible and I think Pandora as well. I don't know. The list is crazy. Anyway, folks, make sure you check out the partners page as well. One of those partners been with us for a long time is the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming baseball games and softball games and volleyball games and basketball games. That's csncoyotes.com for the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Yes! All right. Shifting over to football. Chicago Bears legend Steve McMichael, otherwise known as Mongo, is improving after a staph infection, blood transfusion in the hospital as well. So he was diagnosed with ALS a few years ago and taken to the ER suspected of pneumonia just recently. And now, of course, Bears legend McMichael is improving after that infection, which led to a stint in the intensive care unit at a Chicago area hospital. Now, McMichael's wife, Misty, wrote in a statement shared with the Associated Press recently that his family is hopeful that he will return home from the hospital. And of course, her statement reads, quote, "He's one tough guy. He's Mongo and his DNA is different. Keep those prayers coming. Thank you," close quote. Now, Steve was admitted to the ICU last Thursday with suspected pneumonia, according to a previous statement from his publicist. Now, of course, just a few days ago, an updated regarding that 66-year-old's condition was provided by Jared Payton, son of course, Walter Payton. And McMichael has contracted MRSA, otherwise known as MRSA, his second infection since he was admitted to intensive care at that hospital in the Chicago area. And Payton admitted and added that McMichael would be undergoing a blood transfusion and reiterated with a message from the family. Quote, "We're asking you for your prayers to get Steve through this difficult time. Steve and his family are close friends. Believe in the power of prayer. Thank you for your love and continued support for our Mongo." Close quote. Of course, this comes after Steve was said to have been improving after he was given antibiotics for a UTI, per a social media post that Payton shared just a few days back. And Steve McMichael underwent a procedure to drain fluid from his lungs, and hospital officials anticipated his release in the next few days, according to Jared Payton. And of course, there's so much love for Steve McMichael out there. And look, it's even from the guys that played against him, too. It's just one of those guys. He's the guys, the men's man. And look, even Julius Peppers and Devin Hester and Steve McMichael, as they go into the Hall of Fame, look, they go in as a family, all those players. Doesn't matter what team you're on. And the reality is, it's a fraternity, folks. And you may think that players hate other players. Once in a while, they have a problem with one another. It's funny, I had a conversation with somebody earlier today who was a tight end / wide receiver, and I was asking him about something in particular, and he said, "Oh, yeah, I remember playing against this particular guy, and all he did was razz our quarterback, get on him before the games, and this and that." It was kind of funny. But reality is, it's just showmanship. And yes, there's gamesmanship out there. Look, if you're out there, you're going to play hard. You're playing with a lot of pride. You're playing in the National Football League. It is what it is. Same thing with Major League Baseball. I won't even say the NBA at this point. I will say the National Hockey League. Easily the toughest sport to play. Nonetheless, Steve McMichael was one of those guys that, even if you played against him, you liked him anyway. And for him being into the Hall of Fame, right, he's announced as part of that Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 2024, his candidacy becomes a talking point during his previous hospitalization, which came while he was one of 12 semifinalists being considered by the Hall Senior Committee. And of course, Misty, Steve's wife of 23 years, openly campaigned for her husband to be honored while he was still alive via patch. And she said, quote, "I hope he stays alive for the next year because I know he will if he gets inducted. I know he'll stay alive. He's tough. He's not human. He's probably should have been dead already. The doctors have been giving him 6 months for a year. But he's hanging on. And I really hope that this gives him the incentive to hang on for another year, close quote. Now, of course, a lot of people are rallying around him as well. Now, the Hall of Fame class of 2024 is scheduled to be enshrined in Canton on August the 3rd. And Steve, a 5-time All-Pro at defensive tackle, was a foundational member of the 85 Bears team, that incredible, unbelievable Super Bowl team. In fact, they are still considered to be, allegedly, the greatest team, single season, in NFL history. So with Steve McMichael doing his thing, oh, by the way, folks, we do want to mention that he also was a pro wrestler, right, which made him a bigger fan favorite in Chicago. But, we think about the NFL and all the things that are going on in the league. Well, outside of Steve McMichael, there are a lot of people in transition right now. And the one thing that I want to mention is that during the Super Bowl parade, there was an unfortunate event in Kansas City. A lot of people were injured. Somebody had died. That should never happen. I don't care what the reason is, what the cause is. Look, I'm all for the Second Amendment, but use your weapons for protection like you're supposed to. That's all it is. It's not for you to go out and be aggressive and cause damage. No, it's for your own protection to do what you have to do when the time is in need, maybe in your own residence or something like that, right? But at the end of the day, don't bring that stuff out to the public. Don't harm anybody you don't need to. And we certainly don't need our Second Amendment rights infringed upon either. So there you have it. That's my political view on it. But, we think about Patrick Mahomes and even Brittany. They visited, some kids after that incident at the victory parade. And you know what? Good for them. In fact, we got a nice little read here, and this was from Yahoo Sports. We're going to go ahead and give them a little bit of love here. And it says right here from Yahoo, they said Kansas City Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes and his wife Brittany visited Children's Mercy Hospital after the team's Super Bowl victory parade was marred by a mass shooting that began near the Union Station parking garage. 23 total people were struck by gunfire, and one person, Lisa Lopez Galvin, was killed. During the hospital visit, the couple was photographed with 2 young girls ages 8 and 10 who both underwent surgery to treat gunshots in their legs. And of course, Lopez Galvin was the mother of 2, a local DJ and reportedly a cousin to 2 of the wounded girls, and they belong to the Reyes family, who opted not to reveal their names, and their legs will be braced and cast for months. In fact, here's a quote. "We want to give a personal thanks to the staff of Children's Mercy Hospital and Patrick and Brittany Mahomes for their outpouring of care and love and support." And this is, of course, by the Reyes family, how they said in a statement. Continuing on with the quote, "The girls were celebrating with many families and members when they were senselessly injured. While we are relieved with their progress, the emotional healing continues for all of us, and we kindly ask that you all keep our thoughts, or keep our families in your prayers and thoughts." Close quote. So, my point is with all of this, the NFL has a lot going on over and above just what you may see on television when it comes to these games. And look, these are players, folks. This is a fraternity within these players, within these people. And look, whether it's Jimmy Garoppolo getting suspended for a couple of days or a couple of games, we'll say, for violating PEDs, I don't really understand what that's all about. I do, but I don't. Why would a quarterback have to do that? I don't really know. Look, Jimmy played 7 games with the Raiders last season, but now the NFL suspended him a couple of games for violating this alleged PED policy. Now, that's according to the 4-letter network. So he reportedly used a prescribed medication without having a valid therapeutic use exemption. So again, all of these players, what do? They do what they're told to do at a particular point because that's what the organizations do. And look, all they're doing is they're going to work every day, folks, just like us. That's all they do. They happen to play football for a living in this particular case. So Jimmy G is a good quarterback. He's a solid quarterback. Not everybody likes him. Not everybody hates him. But these guys are just going to work. So whether it's McMichael being in the last moments, so we'll just say in the twilight of his final days here, or if it's a guy that's late career trying to catch on with another squad. These guys are all just going to work and trying to make a living for their families. Granted, a lot of these guys in today's time are paid so much money it's hard to even understand, but the pre-93 collective bargaining guys from the National Football League are the ones that really, really are hurting right now. In fact, if you want to help them out, go to the Gridiron Greats Assistance Fund. Gridiron Greats Assistance Fund. And you can help these guys out. You can help their families out. Medical, dental, psychological issues, concussion protocol, all these things. They're good guys, and they're just good people like you and me. And all we want to do is help everybody else at the same time while helping ourselves. So do the right thing. Check out the Gridiron Greats Assistance Fund. And just take a quick read. See what they do. Back here in a few minutes on The Circus. Lots more to come.
Can your IRA stand up to the next financial crisis that our top economists are saying is at our doorsteps? By allocating a percentage of your IRA into physical gold and silver with a tax-free rollover, you can diversify and safeguard your holdings from turbulent markets and economic downturns by putting your IRA back on the gold standard. Find out how to safeguard your assets with a tax-free rollover with a Genesis Gold IRA, the only IRA that can hold physical precious metals. Call now for your free gold and silver report. Protect your IRA today with one simple phone call and learn how to qualify for up to $10,000 in free silver. Call Genesis Gold Group, empowering faith-driven stewardship. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. 800-932-5517. That's 800-932-5517.
Do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Are you being audited or investigated? Has the IRS sent you a letter demanding payment? You may not owe what they claim. Make this free call to the tax doctor now. Let them negotiate with the IRS on your behalf.
800-296-1209. 800-296-1209. That's 800-296-1209.
Do you know someone with a drug or alcohol problem? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything. Stop the drug and alcohol nightmare. Are drug and alcohol problems hitting you too close to home? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything.
800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. That's 800-831-1560.
If you served in the Marine Corps, by now you know about the contaminated water problem at Camp Lejeune. If you were stationed or worked at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1987, you probably have a lot of questions. We have some answers. You could be entitled to compensation. Billions of dollars are being allocated to pay for damages to anyone stationed at Camp Lejeune during that time. Unfortunately, it appears that officials may have known the contaminated water problem existed and did little to protect their men. The Semper Fi code was not honored. If you or someone in your family has developed a serious illness, including various forms of cancer, call this Camp Lejeune legal support line right now. You can't turn back the clock and change what happened, but you can certainly call right now and learn your rights as a Marine. Here's the number.
Call 800-335-7196. 800-335-7196. That's 800-335-7196. Paid for by Legal Alert Line.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Al Bubba Baker, quarterback breaker and the rib maker.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP.TV. Folks, make sure you check out thesportscircus.com once again to find out who our partners are, but also make sure you click on them and explore those pages just a little bit. Lots of great partners. In fact, I mentioned in the last segment the Gridiron Greats Assistance Fund. In fact, you can learn more about it by clicking on Ditka Jaws Cigars, DitkaJawsCigars.com, or just go ahead and click on that little icon, or better yet, the image when you see the cigar and the glass of whatever it is. Anyway, click on it. It'll bring you over to Ditka Jaws Cigars. That's the Cigars with the Stars event before the Super Bowl, and the links for the Gridiron Greats Assistance Fund are there, along with the Ron Jaworski's Jaws Youth Playbook, which helps out at-risk youth. And Ron Jaworski, one of the favorite guys here on the Sports Circus whenever he comes on. In fact, we're going to have Jaws back on the show here soon. But again, make sure you check out all those partners over there. Lots of great partners for the Sports Circus. All right. I want to talk about these free agents quickly before we jump into a little bit of baseball. I'm going to spend a couple minutes on this. So, I mean, look, there are 25 potential free agents that really could make big changes in teams. And, of course, the Chiefs don't have many huge holes or many questions, but they do have 2 of the 10 best free agents in that list. And, of course, Chris Jones is one of them at defensive line. And, of course, as we go down, you'll find that, I'm scrolling, folks, bear with me, and Mr. Sneed, L'Jarius Sneed, a corner. That's a very important piece of the puzzle. You don't want to lose that guy. And I scroll all the way down, so I apologize for the delay. But, I mean, look, there are articles out there that say, well, Sneed's been great for a great fit for the Chiefs. I get it. But look, this guy is really a versatile player, and he does a lot of stuff well. Like, he's only 27. He's in the prime of his career. You got to lock this guy up. He's one of those good ones. You really need to have your corner set. And you look at those Super Bowl champions that are from years past, whatever. You say, is the secondary solid? It's hard to win a Super Bowl without a solid secondary. So that's a really important one. Now, number 2, of course, the first one being Chris Jones. Jacksonville has an issue with their edge rusher. I hate when they use that term, edge rusher. Look, they're defensive ends. Josh Allen is a very, very good one. This guy also, 27 years old. He just had 17.5 sacks. Well, look, I mean, this guy's going to get a big contract. Someone's going to pay. But, that sack thing, you got to remember, the current sack record, the unofficial sack record, which is the real sack record, it's not Michael Strahan. That's the alleged official one. But the current one really belongs to Al Bubba Baker at 23. And, of course, at some point, the NFL will recognize that. But anyway, so he was a defensive end. So Jacksonville at number 2, the number 2 free agent out there with Josh Allen, they're going to have to do something to lock this guy up. But those numbers are a little bit skewed with that 17.5 sack thing. Now, the Bengals have a problem with T. Higgins, and this is a real big problem. I mean, look, the market for wide receivers is getting real big. And Higgins would have been a number 1 on many teams, of course. Well, you've got another guy over there that happens to be that guy, right? So, end of day, you have Jamar Chase that is their number 1, but T. Higgins is a number 1. Watch and see if T. Higgins might not go to the Chicago Bears. Now, the 4th rated free agent is another one of those defensive ends, which is Brian Burns from the Carolina Panthers. I mean, those guys are in complete shambles. Now, the Bears have Jalen Johnson as their guy. Of course, this guy's only going to be 25. The Bears are going to lock him up. He's not going anywhere. Minnesota's got Kirk Cousins. I think Cousins is going to walk. This guy's 36. He's a serviceable quarterback, but he's coming off an Achilles tear. It's hard to recover from those. The Dolphins, with their defensive tackle, Christian Wilkins, this guy is another good one. The 13th pick just, 4 years ago, basically, essentially 5 years ago. He's been steady and durable. This guy's not going anywhere. I don't see how Miami gets rid of him. The Bucs with Antonio Winfield Jr., big question there, because he was considered the biggest Pro Bowl snub in the past season. He's only 25. And this guy is a very good safety. Remember, that defensive backfield's a really big deal. The Colts have their problems with their wideout, Michael Pittman. I mean, what's going to happen with this guy? Yeah, he had 109 catches for 1152 in the past season, but I don't know. I think it would be a bit of a surprise if he doesn't get the franchise tag. Of course, 10, we mentioned L'Jarius Sneed. Number 11, the Vikings with their defensive end, but they call him edge rusher, Daniel Hunter. This guy's going to be 30. And at 30, folks, things start to break down in the body. I don't know what it is, but the wheels start to come off when athletes turn 30. So he may be able to walk. The Ravens, they have an issue with their defensive lineman, Justin, but I don't really know if this guy is going to go anywhere. I mean, Madubuike is, look, he had a heck of a year, a big breakout year, 13 sacks, all that stuff. But the guy's 26. So Baltimore likely, I think they're going to re-sign this guy. Here's an interesting one with Mike Evans. Now, look, plenty of people picked Evans to take a step back last season, but instead, he actually ended up with 13 touchdowns. And this guy's a lock for the Hall. 1,000 yards in all 10 of his seasons, and he'll be 31 next season. But this guy still showed he's a number one receiver. This guy could actually end up in Chicago as well. You never know. Chicago's going to do a lot here, so we'll see. Now, the Seahawks, with Leonard Williams, they have a conundrum on their hands as a defensive lineman. Look, when Seattle was pushing for the playoffs a year ago, it traded a 2024 second-round pick and a 2025 fifth-rounder for this guy. Of course, that shows he still has value as he goes forward into age 30 season and 43.5 sacks in 9 seasons. He's solid, but I think the Seahawks are going to let this guy walk. Now, the New York Jets have an issue with their edge rusher or defensive end, or Bryce Huff. Look, he hasn't started a game in either of the past couple seasons, and I don't know. I mean, many say, well, look, this guy was, PFF says, third behind Myles Garrett and Micah Parsons and ahead of Nick Bosa and Aiden Hutchinson. That's fine, but that's the kind of season that can lead to a monster contract if that's the case. I mean, look, he doesn't turn 26 until April. His pass rush win rate, etc., is all good. It all equals good. I think the Jets hang on to this guy, even though he hasn't started a game the last couple seasons. Now, Washington, I don't even want to say their team name. Their corner, Kendall Fuller, is a pretty damn good one. Now, look, he has been a very productive player for years, and he finished 7th among corners in Pro Football Focus's grade in the past season. He's 29, so he's still under that 30 mark. I don't know. That 1 year, I'm sort of on the fence with. I almost think that Washington's going to let him go. Now, the Giants with Saquon Barkley, I think Barkley is definitely going to depart. Look, he has dealt with injuries, including that torn ACL, and he hasn't really replicated his monster season from 6 years ago. I think he's gone. The Texans have that same situation with their edge rusher, Jonathan Greenard. Look, he's been a solid edge rusher for 4 seasons, and he's going to be 27. He's going to get a nice contract. I don't think Houston's going to pay for it. I just don't. I think Houston will spend more money on the offensive side of the ball. Baker Mayfield, he's going to get paid. No question. He's going to be 29 next season. This guy is going to get paid, and he deserves it. We're going to give Baker a little round of applause. The Rams with Kevin Dotson, their guard, look, they're going to have to sign this guy, period. He should get a really, really big deal. They don't want to let him go anywhere else. This guy is a good one. At 21, the Cardinals' Marquise Brown, I think he's going to go. I think he's definitely going to go. And look, he's 27. He's a good one. Other teams can use him. The Jags with Calvin Ridley, I don't think he's going anywhere. I really don't. The Patriots with Kyle Duggar. Kyle Duggar, that safety position, but it's a very valuable one. I really don't necessarily believe that the Patriots are going to let him go. And, of course, they have the same problem in New England with Trent Brown, their offensive tackle. This guy is a monster. Big left tackle for a bunch of years. Got a lot left in the tank. He's not going anywhere. And actually tied with him, Josh Jacobs, Tony Pollard, Derrick Henry. I don't think any of those guys are going anywhere in the running back position. No, I don't really think so. All right, real quick. Now, in baseball, of course, we have spring training underway. And what I find interesting is the Red Sox, they go and sign a 2-year deal with closer Liam Hendricks, who won't pitch this season. Now, let's face it, folks. With the White Sox in the last couple of years, Liam Hendricks didn't really play much last year because he had the cancer issue. And then the year before, he blew a lot of saves. I think he was one of the top 5 guys in blown saves in Major League Baseball. I think the Red Sox are really reaching. They go and take former White Sox player Liam Hendricks. They go and take former White Sox pitcher in Lucas Giolito. I think that's a bad contract. And they still have Chris Sale. Now, Chris Sale was a very, very good one, but Chris hasn't really recovered from his injuries over the time. They're turning into the Boston White Sox, if you know what I mean. But anyway, Boston's kind of reaching right now. they're likely going to be in either last place or second to last. They're probably going to be right down there with the Yankees at the bottom of the division, because that is the Orioles and the Blue Jays all day. And we also can't forget the Tampa Bay Rays, because somehow this seems like they clean house every year, but they find themselves right there in the thick of things. But the Yankees and Red Sox will likely be at the bottom of the American League East. Now, of course, Giants fan favorite Pablo Sandoval is going to join camp as a non-roster invitee. I kind of like those. You know, the Chicago Cubs have one, and that would be Jorge Alfaro. Now, Jorge is an interesting guy, too, and I believe Jorge is going to make the team. He's one of those guys that, he reported to camp in great shape, but likely, if you look at the catchers on the Cubs team, Yan Gomes is the starting catcher. He's getting up there in age. And they also have Tucker Barnhart, who's getting up there. And Tucker's not very productive. I think that Alfaro is going to make that team in Chicago. Of course, we want to see him in there. Big shout out to our friend Lynn on that one. And I normally don't give a lot of great feedback for the Cubs because I'm a White Sox guy, but we're going to definitely cheer on Alfaro to join that team. Now, Pete Alonso, listen to this one, refuses to let unsettled future with the Mets disrupt the focus out of 2024. I don't necessarily believe that, folks. If you are a player, do a monster contract. You want that out of the way so you can focus on what? Playing ball. All you're going to do is you're going to make this guy mad, and eventually he may rebel. And you never know. The outside distractions from the media may turn into just that, but on a bigger scale. So I don't necessarily think that Alonso is going to necessarily be unsettled per se. I think he has to say that because that's probably what PR says, but really, he's probably really been out of shape. Now, of course, Kansas City Royals traded for Boston Red Sox pitcher John Schreiber, and as the Boston Red Sox continue to hemorrhage, the Royals continue to posture. We're going to keep a real close eye on the Royals. They're a fun team to watch, and who knows what's going to happen. I do like the signing of Bobby Witt Jr. Yeah, it's a big contract, but you know what? This kid deserves it. And he is one hell of a player. That's going to do it for the circus today. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, and we'll see you in about 23 hours on your favorite station. Until then, so long, everyone.
Hello Americans, it's Uncle Sam here. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes to the IRS or state, don't worry. I've got important news that may help you negotiate a lower tax bill. In today's economy, the IRS has released a variety of new rules and is offering more flexible terms to help Americans looking to settle their IRS debt. If you apply today, we may be able to lift your wage garnishments and release a freeze on your bank assets or business. Our team of tax professionals can resolve your case and stop collection actions against you. Even if you've been audited or haven't filed a return in years, they can help. Call right now and find out if you qualify to settle your IRS debt for far less than what you owe. Pick up your phone right now and call us for a free $500 IRS tax review. Don't wait. Here's the number.
Call right now. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. 800-950-2049. For the last time, that's 800-950-2049.